I'd been trying to make a trip to Glacier National Park happen for over 9 years. I was finally able to make all the permits and all the logistics work this year. We were able to get an itinerary that was spread out over 7 days, 100 miles going from two Medicine lakes in the south all the way up into Canada, exiting at the town site of Waterton. And it all began with a 15-hour drive to get there. We are rolling to a stop, out of gas. And there is the gas station. Right there. So close.
Got greedy.
So right before we got to Glacier, we just saw this little road, came down it, and there's a perfect spot to set up camp. Kind of keeps going a little, and there's another spot right here, but it's just us. It's only 20 minutes from where we need to be tomorrow morning. We started the next day at the Two Medicine Ranger Station. Then we went to the visitor center where Jason got some coffee. And after wrapping up a few details to make sure we had a shuttle on the way back, we were off. As it was mid-July, the wildflowers were in bloom, and we enjoyed getting to see some new ones we'd never seen before. I once again tried to identify as many as I can in the video, but no guarantees I got them all right. Day one began as a very beautiful day. We had 14 miles to cover, about 3,000 vertical feet. But one of the advantages of hiking up in northern Montana in midsummer is the long days. So first daylight starts around 5 a.m. and lasts until 10 p.m. So there's never really any pressure to hurry to get anywhere by any certain time. So we just got to really enjoy the trail and enjoy our journey. Heading up that Potomac Pass. As we reached Potomac Pass, we were just hit with the views off both sides. One side was Old Man Lake, the other side Potomac Lake, and just the sheer drop-offs of the walls of these glacially carved valleys really made it a very dramatic scene. We were very struck by the beauty of everything we saw there. We just stop and be filling up our water bottles and just couldn't even really believe what we were looking at was real. Glacier gets a lot more rain than we're used to seeing in Colorado, and the combination of that and the very steep walls just made for waterfalls everywhere. We saw them constantly throughout every day that we hiked. The Atlantic Creek campground was right next to the Atlantic Creek Falls. Beautiful spot to be able to see right before we got into camp. It was a little buggy in camp, but not too bad. We enjoyed spending the evening chatting with some of the other people who were hiking various trails in the area.
Heading up that trail into that little cloud there.
That little cloud didn't turn out to be so little. Though the day began with a cloudless sky, blue skies, by the time we get up to Triple Divide Pass, things changed pretty quick on us. But fortunately, it was one of our shorter days at only about 12 miles.
Coming up on Triple Divide Pass. It's called Triple Divide. Well, that's Triple Divide Peak. Everything on the far side of that goes to the Pacific. Everything in this basin, all the water, I should say, goes to the Atlantic. And once we cross that ridge, on the other side, all that water goes to the Arctic Ocean. Yeah, here we are, soaked from sweat on top of Triple Divide Pass. The views are in the 20 to foot range. We're soaked from sweat and the temperature dropped 30 degrees and got windy. Yeah, trees over there, marmot trying to steal our stuff. That's about it. Turns out coming over to the Arctic Ocean side really made a difference.
We learned that this plant is called beargrass. It does a super bloom about once every 5 to 10 years. And on this day, when it was really cloudy and overcast, the plant really stuck out, and it really just added to the ambiance of that cloudy, foggy day that we were hiking.
Beargrass is so cool. Well, there was a little bit of a tragedy yesterday. I'm using a pack I got from Z-Packs. I hadn't used it before. And for some reason, on the top of the pack, Z-Packs put a big black panel there, which is just wonderful at absorbing heat. My food was near the top there. Just baked in there, so I'm gonna have a Snickers finally. Couldn't have one yesterday because it melted to soup inside the wrapper, but they've re-solidified. We'll see what's inside of here. Anyway, Snickers time. Down below the clouds. Water coming straight out of the clouds.
As we neared our campsite at Red Eagle Lake Foot, we entered into an old burn scar. This campground was within that burn scar, and we figured that's probably why this was one of only 2 campgrounds we were allowed to have campfires at on this trip. Not that we took advantage of it. We don't really like having campfires, as the sparks tend to melt our expensive equipment. We were very impressed by the bridges on this trail. A lot of them are these suspension bridges that they can roll up and remove in the winter so they don't get damaged, and then they hang them back up in the spring. They've certainly made a lot of these river crossings much easier for us.
Nice. Every bridge should come supplied with trail candy. I had some on the other side. Alright, so here's how it works getting into camp. Find the sign. A little map of the campground. First thing you do is you hang your bear bag. Get all your stuff up. Identify the privy. That's probably the next most important, which this one's right over there. Then it's also the only place you're allowed to cook, have your food out, or do anything like that. Head on down the trail. And while you're hiking, always have your bear spray with. Find little sign for the campsites. There we go. According to the map, there's 4 campsites here. 3 of them are down that way. And then we took this one up here. Nice little pad, plenty of room for 2 tents. Oh yeah, the Mike and Ikes are looking good here.
Well, the storm hit and it's been going non-stop. Hard rain. It's getting hard to stay dry inside the tent even. Condensation from my breath is hitting the walls, and then when the rain hits it, that comes down on me. Got a little problem with water going underneath my tent and soaking through too, so I had to get out and do a little trenching to try to divert that. Well, 12 hours into the storm, it's not raining as hard as it was last night. It has not stopped though, at all. Still have a couple of water intrusion problems in the tent, but I'm dry. I think my sleeping bag's dry. Sleeping pad's dry, so can't ask for much more than that.
Well, we're soaked.
The storm was originally forecasted to drop 2¼ inches of rain. It wound up lasting 4 hours longer than originally forecasted. I'm estimating we got about 3 inches of rain during this storm. Made it real hard to stay dry. And as the day went on, we were just hiking through bushes and undergrowth that was covered in water, soaked us thoroughly. Most of the 13 miles we hiked this day were along St. Mary Lake, which was still beautiful despite the weather.
Skipped breakfast, so I'm having an early Snickers time. We have been literally doing this for hours. These plants are soaked. They soak us from the sides. We don't know what we're stepping in. I mean, besides puddles. And it just keeps raining.
As we neared the end of our hike that day, we got into the Virginia Falls and St. Mary Falls area, which is really popular and not too far off of one of the bus stops on going to the Sun Road. So we wound up seeing a lot more people once we got there. St. Mary Falls, we decided to go ahead and catch that shuttle to take it into St. Mary to get heated up and dried out. During the day, Jason had just gotten absolutely soaked through and was beginning to become hypothermic.
Yeah, the uncontrolled shivering. You're good. Especially, it's 80 degrees in here.
As Jason was shivering uncontrollably on the shuttle, we saw our first bear on the trip, of course near a campground. We then got into the town of St. Mary and had some food and found a room to stay.
This is awesome. This looks like a yard sale or a used sporting goods store. This is great. I love it. Fresh snow on the mountains this morning. First time we've seen the sun in almost 48 hours.
The blue skies the next morning really encouraged us for the hike that day. Jumped on the shuttle and took it back to the trail to get a good start that morning, dry and ready to go.
Well, the plants didn't dry out, but it's not raining anymore and the sun's out, so not quite as bad to get wet. Hopefully this will dry out quick today. Piegon Glacier on Piegon Mountain. Piegon Pass right there. And there's Jason chatting up some people on the trail. So apparently this is a bear dig where he gives himself a little rodent treat. Yeah, we get a little snow on the trail.
I did learn from a woman on the trail who seemed very knowledgeable about the area. It's actually pronounced Piegan Pass.
I just don't even have words for this place.
As we were descending off Pegan Pass, I did get the opportunity to spot a grizzly bear. Unfortunately, it was a pretty quick sighting as he was crossing a snowfield, disappeared into some rocks. I didn't have time to get my camera out, but it was really the way I wanted to see a grizzly bear, distant and no way we would actually be anywhere near each other. Most of the water in this area has glacial silt in it. That's what really gives it that deep blue color.
Only about 4 miles to go. I'm gonna go ahead and have my Snickers now.
I also came across a trail ride going through here. They were having some trouble. I let the wrangler know that I used to be a wrangler in an earlier part of my life, and she let me help out. This is Billy Bob. We got to spend some time together. This is the historic Many Glacier Lodge, world famous place to stay. And it's also near where our campsite was. We got to see a moose frolicking around in the Swift Current Lake while we were hanging out there. We also took some time to charge up our equipment, as well as visit the restaurant, get a good meal that night.
Well, we got chased off by a bear from our kitchen, so we came up on top of the hill here for a view while we made breakfast. And it worked out all right.
This day's hike would be the longest of our trip. We had 18 miles to go to get to camp. We were hiking up over a pass, actually through a pass, through the Ptarmigan Tunnel.
Spigots are awesome.
I will say I never worried about water on this trip. I never carried more than 1 liter at a time. Often my water bottle was even empty when I was carrying it. Whenever I got thirsty, there was always a water source nearby I could fill up.
Head over here, do a switch back there, right up here somewhere in the middle of that wall is the Ptarmigan Tunnel. It'll take us through to the other side. There's the ptarmigan side. Nice. Build your own tunnel. And we pop out. Whew. To that. Oh my goodness. First learned about Ptarmigan Tunnel probably 20 plus years ago. Henry gave me a book about Glacier National Park. I finally got to hike through it. It was one of the ones I read about that just stuck out I wanted to do. Taking a break up here for a little bit. Getting Snickers time in. It's as amazing as I imagined it. It's so awesome. And that cliff we're just on the side of right now. 11 more miles of hiking today. 7 down. And out. It's like rockfall does a little damage to the trail sometimes. Good, how you doing? You too. There's the tunnel up there. Gorgeous lake. Glacier up on the hillside. Another glacier up there. Here we are in the middle of it.
And then the skies turned ominous again. Near Elizabeth Lake, there were a lot of people telling us they'd seen bears recently as we passed them. Well, by a lot, 4 people. But in the area, began seeing the sign of them, some bear tracks. Followed the trail for quite a while, and the tracks were on top of the other people's tracks, as well as some deer tracks and other animals along with them. So we were keeping an eye out, calling out for bear a lot. The toilets at all the campsites all have little symbols carved into them. I appreciate that they decided to class up a little bit what is basically just a toilet in a box. I love soaking my feet in Cold Mountain Lake to rejuvenate them for the next day. Oddly enough, though, these lakes really weren't that cold. They were kind of pleasant. Unfortunately, I didn't catch on video, but we had a couple of pine martens invade our kitchen that evening while we were trying to make dinner. It's pretty entertaining. We killed a little time skipping rocks on the lake. And the next morning, we spread out our gear to try to dry it out again. Day 6 was going to be another 14-mile day with our final pass to cross over Stony Indian Pass.
This is amazing. Go see where we camped last night. There.
As we were nearing Stony Indian Pass, you can see in the distance there, came across probably one of our closest but unseen encounters with a grizzly bear. Found tracks on the ground. They were quite large. Then we found a big fresh bear dig. And then a short ways up the trail, we found his snack that had left behind. So we were kind of a little worried we just interrupted him from maybe one of his favorite meals. Never did wind up seeing him, but it sure kept us on edge for a little bit.
Summit of Stony Indian Pass. Nice. Last pass of the trip definitely deserves a Snickers.
Even though it hadn't rained on us this day, we still had wet feet. It was just about impossible to dry out our shoes on this trip. So at some point you just kind of give up and don't even worry about it. Walk right through the water. If you haven't noticed yet, there's a lot of waterfalls in Glacier National Park. They don't even bother naming most of them.
The trail crew came through, chopped down all the weeds. Holy cow, this is amazing.
We ran into the trail crew and asked them what the trail was like ahead. They just said, brushy.
Nice mules.
I wasn't being careful cutting a slice of salami for myself for a snack. Got to use my first aid kit that I brought along though.
Melted peanut butter trail mix bar, patent pending.
That night we were at the Kootenai Lake campground. That lake was just so peaceful and spectacular. Lots of animals and wildlife playing around. We enjoyed watching a pack rat swim through the water, ducks play, and listening to the loons. On our last day, we only had 12 miles to go to get to the town of Waterton. We left a little early to make sure we'd have plenty of time to get there before our shuttle left. Didn't want to miss that. On our way out, I did notice that next to the cutout of a bear paw print, a grizzly bear had left his actual paw print to make sure we knew what it really looked like.
Weeds are nice and mowed here too. Yeah. This seems excessive when there's not even any water flow in here.
As you reach the south end of Waterton Lake, you come into a fair number of buildings. This is a ranger station. A lot of people take a boat across the lake and visit the area. And so they have a ranger station for those who are coming from Canada to be able to check into the United States when they do so. From here to Waterton is still 8 more miles, all of it along the beautiful Waterton Lake.
That's some deep water too.
A short time later, we finally reached the border of Canada. See a straight line running up the hill. They actually cut all the trees down on the actual border. Not sure exactly what benefit that serves other than to let you know when you're hiking through the woods when you're crossing the border. There are a couple of monuments right by the lake marking the location as well. Not long after crossing the border, we saw our first actual bear on the trail. We did all the things they told us to do to try to scare him off. He didn't care. He was way more interested in digging up whatever he was after. Then we also saw the ferry going by, taking a bunch of people over to the south end of Waterton Lake to enjoy their day there. We overheard the ship's captain pointing us out as some wildlife on the beach. We once again found ourselves hiking through a burn scar. The fireweed was doing amazing there. It was growing taller than us. And we also noticed that we were kind of running away from a storm as we were hiking. Never did catch up to us, just kind of slowly crept down over Waterton Lake, but we were able to get to the town before it got to us.
Last hill to climb before Waterton. And things are a little different here.
We got caught up in some slow-moving traffic. Deer was walking down the trail and didn't want to get out of the way to let anybody around. It had been 100 miles to get here. We were excited to get into town, find ourselves someplace to get a good meal, and not have to worry about setting up a tent that night. Once we got into Canada, all we had to do was call a phone number, talk to the authorities, give them our passport number, and tell them we weren't carrying any weapons, and we were checked into Canada. Stopped and grabbed a bite to eat. I had poutine for the first time. It was pretty good. It's that thing on the right there in that photo. Pretty delicious. Then we were on our way to catch our shuttle, but Jason noticed his hand was swelling. Not sure what that was from. I think he got stabbed by some strange plant.
Leaving Canada, walking into America.
We had to wait for a separate shuttle once we got into the US, so we hung out at the border for a little bit. Once they showed up, we got back to our truck, and it was a long 15-hour drive home. Thanks for going with me, Jason. Appreciate you pushing through some hard things on this trip.